Today, I'm gonna show you guys how to turn this storage room into a sauna. We're gonna give you guys a step-by-step and a full price breakdown. Christy and I have been talking about putting in a sauna at our house for quite a while now, and we're gonna pull the trigger on it. So we're gonna be turning this room in here, which has been our storage since we've had the house, into a sauna. So the first thing we're gonna do is empty this room, and what we've got is some rolling shelves to put all this stuff on. Interesting story, kind of. Our basement flooded twice since we've been here. We actually had a tree out front that the roots were growing through the pipe that the sump pump pumps through. So it clogged the pipe, flooded our basement twice. And the new thing that we've done is put everything on these rolling racks. So I've got a couple more for everything in that closet, but it makes it really convenient to keep everything up and off the floor so it doesn't get water damage. And then also, anytime we kind of rearrange things down here, it's super easy to just roll things from one room to another. So we're kind of keeping with that trend. Everything from this room is going to be emptied. I've made my first run to Home Depot. So we'll start with some framing to frame out the other two rooms. We've got a couple different kinds of insulation, some wiring, some nails. I've also ordered our sauna heater, which is on its way, as well as some cedar to cover the walls in. We're gonna walk you guys through the process, show you what it looks like, any of the hang-ups that we hit, the final product. All right guys, so yesterday I got everything cleaned out of this room and framed everything that wasn't currently framed. Two of the walls had some 2x4s in there, and I framed a ceiling and some in the block wall so that we can cover it in insulation. Super easy, this stuff just kind of falls in between each of the cavities, and then we're gonna staple it down. On top of that, the next step will be another heat layer, which I'll show you guys in just a second, to keep all of the heat inside, to make sure it actually stays really hot. All right, so we just got all the insulation up. First was all of the fiberglass insulation, and then we wrapped it with a thermal barrier, which is kind of another form of insulation, just kind of radiate the heat outward. It's a thin kind of metallic material. It's like a bubble wrap actually that's almost wrapped in like tinfoil. Goes up super easy. Came in a big roll. Just rolled it out. We'll staple it along to the studs, covering the entire room and the ceiling. Once this is up, we've kind of got what looks like a space room, and from this point I'll add a few more staples and we're ready to start adding wood. After that, we'll cut some lights out, build some benches, and start installing our heater. All right, so last time we left off, or when we left off, everything was just the kind of silver spaceship box. We've got cedar, most of the walls. We've got 2 can lights in as well. I already had the wiring for those that was just part of the room to a light switch. So I just, instead of it being 1 light, we made it 2. We started then with the ceiling, just running our cedar boards across. These go super quick. They are just cedar tongue and groove, similar to what flooring would be. I'm cutting to where they're whole pieces all the way across. So unlike flooring where the seams are staggered, these go completely from one end to the other. I'm also cutting them a little bit short because with the drastic temperature changes, they will shrink and expand. So because of that, they need some room to do so. And these edges or corners all get covered in little trim pieces. But all that's happening is these are getting placed on the wall. They'll get scooted to where the tongue and groove go together. And I can't see the studs, but I can just run my fingers along to find where they're at. Pop a nail in, move on to the next one. Each one gets 5 or 6 nails, and that's really all that it takes. These are also small nails, which help allow it to breathe. We're getting close on this. After the cedar's up, we're gonna be building some benches. We'll have a lower and a higher one so that you can more or less just kind of climb up to the higher one, which is going to keep you at a higher temperature. I think that we're also gonna potentially build a couple benches on this side as well. Then install the heater. We've ordered a door that we're waiting on, so we've got a normal door now. We'll have a glass one on by the time we're finished. But we will finish up the cedar and touch base with you guys when we start the bench. So as you guys can see, we've got this thing pretty much sewn up. Everything's covered in cedar. We've made our benches, which are also cedar. They're just 2x4s. There's nothing special about these other than the fact that they're not pine, which is what the normal 2x4 would be made of. These are cedar 2x4s, and we use that because it handles the shrinkage and expansion really well, and it's also a very dry wood, so it's going to last. So if you're going to do something like this, it's kind of a must-have to spend a little bit of the extra money to put everything in cedar. These are just flat 2x4s, framed kind of like a wall. So I've got 2 on the outside, then they're laid flat, sandwiched by 1 vertical on either outside with a little support on the bottom. This is 20 inches wide, and it is 20 inches above this one. This one's slightly smaller, which is really just a step, and this one's also 20 inches off the floor. A typical seat height is about 18 inches, so these are a little bit more than that, but it's very natural to sit on. Your feet would touch whether you're sitting on the lower or the upper one. We put these up high because the heat obviously rises, so giving yourself a little bit of extra height towards the ceiling makes the sauna feel hotter. This block just kind of does the same thing, so if you wanted to, you can sit up on this block, get your head a little bit closer to the ceiling, which makes it just even hotter. It makes it at least feel even hotter. Also, something I mentioned earlier was that our basement flooded twice. What I did not mention is we did get rid of that tree. So ideally we won't be flooding again, but in case you were wondering, we did take care of the problem. What we got is a Harvina sauna. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's Harvia. It's an 8 kilowatt sauna, 33 amp, and runs off 240. It gets this room super hot. We haven't gotten to test the temperatures yet because it takes a special thermometer. I didn't even consider it, but apparently most thermometers only go up to 120 degrees. So we had to special order one that goes over 200 degrees, and I would assume that this gets well over that. So this is also a dry heater, so it's heating up some elements in here that heat the air up. It's also got a bunch of rocks that also help kind of project the heat. What we can also do is toss water on it. This gets the heat it gets it very hot in here, but if you want to accelerate that or get it even hotter, what we can do is just add water. So we've just kind of got a little ladle at the moment. We'll get like a sauna spoon, but you can toss water on, and within 2 seconds you'll feel a heat wave of it just projecting the heat. It does for a second turn it into steam, but it's not really a steam room. It's still very dry between the wood and the temperature. It never gets steamy, it just helps radiate heat throughout the room. All right, as far as the price breakdown, I'm gonna give you guys the details of what this cost as far as the total and individually for some of the materials. There wasn't a whole lot that went into this as far as stuff that you'll need. The sauna heater itself is kind of one of the bigger expenses, and it's not something to skimp on. If you were to make a room like this or make your own sauna but not have something that produces enough heat to really make it worth it, it's a wasted effort. So definitely don't skimp on the heater. That's worth putting some money into. This one in particular was $835, and it came in about 2 days, or didn't have to wait very long for it to come as well. The material for the stuff like the framing, so the 2x4s, the insulation that went in between the 2x4s, and that foil material is also an insulator. The total for that kind of stuff, just the raw materials, was $532. So not too expensive, just kind of the bare bones stuff that goes behind the walls. Then the cedar itself is the biggest expense. It's not cheap. Depending on the size of your room, that can vary a little bit, but for us, it was $1,618. So that was where the bulk of our expense was, but it's just kind of a needed expense. Something else that we spent a little bit of money on was a door. We haven't replaced it yet because that is still in order, but we got a glass door with a wood frame so that we can see in and out, or if you were coming down, you could see if somebody was in the sauna. We got that from Menards and it was 150 bucks, but that's not something you have to have. Currently, we've just got a regular interior door on there, and it works just fine, but aesthetically we're going for a glass door. So all in all, our total for this entire thing was $3,135 in total. Got us a sauna built into our house. I think I mentioned earlier that we were considering first building or ordering a barrel sauna, and I was on the verge of doing that, and I'm sure they're great, but we didn't have a great spot to put that in our backyard, and we didn't, with close neighbors, want to have to be walking to and from all the time. So this worked a much better option for us, and quite frankly, I think that building this from scratch was probably quicker and easier than having to go through the kit of building a sauna. I've seen them, and it looks like it would probably be somewhat like putting together a piece of IKEA furniture where it looks really simple once it's done, but you get a box with 1,000 pieces in it. And this, there really wasn't a whole lot of pieces, and I cut everything to fit. It took me in total it was 3 days, 2 half days, and 1 more or less full day. I probably could have done this, knocked it out in 2 days if I was shooting for that, but I thought it was going to take longer, and I thought it was going to be more of a little bit project, just working on it when I had the time. But once I got going, I realized that it could be done pretty quickly, and I just tried to finish it up. So it's not an overwhelming project. If you guys do have some experience with building, there's nothing overcomplicated about this. The one thing that you may want to look for some help with is running the electric. So it does take a 240 line, which I did run to our electric box. If you don't have any experience with that, it's something you should have an expert help you with. I did mention that we ran it through our drop ceiling, meaning that we've got one of those soft ceilings that I can show you that you can kind of press up and get to a cavity between the floor upstairs and the drop ceiling, which made it pretty easy to run it over to the electric box. Once it's hooked up to a circuit breaker, it's also really easy to hook up to the unit. It's just 2 wires and a ground, so there's nothing overcomplicated about that wiring either. So far this thing works great. It heats up in about 10 minutes. If you guys are interested in some more stuff about the sauna, we're happy to give you some more information about why we got one, the health benefits of it, and also some temperature stuff. We do have a thermometer coming in. I'm more than happy to give you guys some updates on how quickly it heats up. If you guys want like a minute by minute or every 10-minute breakdown of how hot it gets, as well as the max temperature we can get in here, follow us on Instagram. We'll give you guys some updates on that. We'll have those links down below. If you guys have any questions of anything else you guys want to know about our sauna, just put them in the comments below and we're happy to answer them for you.